Imagine losing your wife to a drunk driver just 19 days after your wedding, and then watching the killer try to play the victim in court. Wait until you hear the prosecutor absolutely humble him.
I understand there's times for mercy, there's times for compassion, Your Honor, but I think undeserved mercy to the guilty is further cruelty to the victims, and they've been through everyone's worst nightmare.
This entitled woman got busted for her 5th DWI and could not even remember her own criminal record. When her lawyer tried to buy her way out of prison with a fine, this savage judge completely destroyed her privilege.
I know more about her criminal history than she does. This is your 5th DWI, ma'am. What's fair is fair. Just because somebody can pay a fine, well, most people in here can't. So you have money, then you can avoid being held responsible.
This serial retail thief went on a massive stealing spree and tried to play dumb in front of the judge. Watch the judge literally laugh at her rap sheet because it is as thick as a dictionary.
Your criminal history is ridiculous. It's when I start having to turn page after page after page.
He brought a loaded gun to a fist fight, took a man's life, and then begged for leniency because he got his GED and went to therapy. The reality check this judge gives him is an absolute masterclass.
I have no leniency and no mercy to give you. His family has to keep him alive by the memories he left behind, by the footprints he left behind. Your sorry doesn't cut it for me.
Welcome back to Justice Judged. Let's enter the courtroom.
How long has y'all been married before she died?
Only 19 days.
I'm sorry you have to be here, Chris. I'm sorry all these people that are in the courtroom have to be here. You and I spoke about this case, the legal side of it, and what can possibly happen. What are you asking Judge West to do today?
I think the only thing that can be done is the maximum sentence. I think that's the only way that any kind of healing can be done. From just on my end and from the 1,000 lives that were affected by this senseless tragedy.
Thank you, Chris. I'll pass it to Sharon.
Any questions? Thank you. You may call your next witness.
State called Boston Carr.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Carr, would you identify yourself for the jury and tell us what you do for a living? I mean, for the judge, and tell us what you do for a living, please.
My name is Boston Carr, and I live in Beaumont, Texas, and I work for Bierce Industrial, an industrial sales company.
And how old are you, sir?
I'm 22 years old.
How did you find out that Camille had been killed?
I was asleep, and my dad busted into my room, and it was about 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, and I remember waking up, and he just said, "The girls got in an accident." My first thought was that they had to be okay. There was no way something like that could happen. And I immediately asked, "Are they okay? What hospital are they at? You know, what ER are they in?" And all my dad could say was, "They didn't make it." All I could say was no. Just no, no. And I jumped out of bed and I still just couldn't believe it. There's no way. And I got dressed as fast as I could and I ran downstairs and I didn't know what I could do. I thought there was something maybe I could do. And my dad just told me, he said, "Bubba, there's nothing you can do. There's nowhere you can go. Can't do anything."
And since this has happened, how's it affected you, Boston?
I had begun building my life with Camille and my life plans and our life that we were building together and we had just begun to build together was just taking off. And the one thing that I thought I had done right in my life was deciding to marry Camille. And with that gone, I feel so lost in like this life that I was supposed to have has been taken away from me.
I'm asking the same question that I asked Chris. What do you want to see happen here today?
Full sentencing underneath the law, that's possible.
And that's actually not enough, is it? Nothing can fix it.
I don't believe it is.
I understand. Thank you, Mr. Carr. I'll pass it to Sharon.
No questions.
Thank you.
I have no other witnesses to call in punishment, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Mr. Young, do you have any witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor, we call Salvador Gomez.
All right, Mr. Gomez, if you'll just get them close over here, please.
Now, when we were preparing for the trial, you've never been convicted of a felony anywhere, correct?
That is correct.
So you technically qualify for probation. Are you asking this court for probation?
No, sir, I'm not. I don't think it's appropriate. I'm taking full responsibility for my actions. And that's why I don't think it's appropriate for me to even think about it.
So when the probation officer included all that in the report about, that's nothing you asked for, that's just something they include.
That is correct, yes.
So I think the last thing is there anything you want to say to the families of Ms. Eisenhower this morning?
Yes, I will. To the Eisenhower family, to the Marty family, Mr. Stacks, Mr. Carr, there's nothing that I can say, nothing that I can do to bring your loved ones back. Have the remorse and the shamefulness that I feel about this is unthinkable. Nothing that has happened to me compares to the destruction that I've caused in your lives. I've destroyed your lives. And nothing that my injuries, that doesn't even compare. I can't even fathom what y'all are going through. I really don't. And I've thought about this for over a year. And I just can't come up with a proper things to say, but what I've said. I don't wish this upon even my worst enemies, because I know y'all are hurting beyond imagination. And like I said, I wish I could do something, but I can't.
Have you asked for forgiveness from your personal Savior?
Yes, I have. I ask for forgiveness for my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and I'll have my judgment day with Him one day. Trust me, I've said it to myself a bunch of times, and I've said it to Him too. Why didn't you kill me instead of them? I would have preferred that, but He did what He did. And I'm sorry. I'm very sorry.
Pass the witness.
Thank you. Any questions, Mr. Nichols?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Gomez, how many DWI convictions did you have before this night?
3.
2 here in Texas and 1 in Virginia, is that correct?
That is correct.
And on those occasions, you were put on probation?
Yes, sir.
And as part of probation for DWI, I'm sure they taught you the risk when you were wanting to get out and go speak to kids and teach them about drinking and driving. You wanted to show them that you don't think it could happen to you, but it happened to me. That was your words, correct?
Yes.
It happened to you.
Yes.
Not you did this to them, but it happened to you. That's how you see this?
Oh, no, sir.
How old are your children?
27, 21, 20, and 18.
And if, God forbid, they were taken from you because of someone drunk, intoxicated driving, what would you be asking the judge to do?
I will let the justice system look at all the facts and the judge, and for her to decide, or them to decide what is the right thing to do, the right decision.
When you were taking shots at the strip club and stumbling over your chair, what was going through your mind at that point?
Not a whole lot.
And then after that, you decided to get in your truck and drive 20, 30 miles back to where you live off of Westport off the road. Correct?
Yes, sir.
And your evening started at the taqueria in Port Arthur,
Yes, sir.
where you drank 8, 9 beers between 5:30 and 9:30. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir, I think so.
And you left the city of Port Arthur after having had 8 or 9 beers and drove the 30 minutes or so to a strip club in Beaumont. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
And for several more hours, you continued to drink. You took shots and you drank beers.
Yes, sir.
And then after about 12:30, 12:45 in the morning, you got in your truck to drive back to West Port Arthur Road.
Yes, sir.
And you're asking this court to give you some mercy for your choices.
Sir, I'm asking the court to review the facts. And the judicial system, they can make the right decision on what they want to do, sir.
I'm sure they can. Pass, please.
Anything else, Mr. Young?
One question. Mr. Nichols referred to your prior offenses for the misdemeanor of driving while intoxicated. When was the last one?
In 2005.
Pass it.
Anything
No
else?
questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
I understand there's times for mercy, there's times for compassion, Your Honor. But I think undeserved mercy to the guilty is further cruelty to the victims. And they've been through everyone's worst nightmare. 20 plus 20 is 40, and that's really not enough, but that is the maximum allowed under law, and that's what I'm asking you to do on behalf of the Marty family, the Eisenhower family, Christopher Staggs, Oscar Carr, and their entire faith community. The one reason all these people, including the Gomez family, are here in this courtroom today is because of what he did, what he chose to do. And it is a tragedy up and down. And so I'm asking you to protect the citizens of Jefferson County from any chance that this could ever happen again from Mr. Gomez. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. I have a question, Mr. Nichols, with regard to deadly weapon finding. I'm looking at the indictment, and it doesn't read that there's a deadly weapon.
Right, I don't believe it does, Your Honor.
Okay. And it's not something I looked into. Is that something I can still find if the indictment doesn't say it?
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that.
Okay. Do y'all know? If it's not, if it's not in the indictment?
The court would have to find, it is permissible without a request, without it being included in the indictment. However, the court would have to point to specific evidence that it was used or intended to be used as a deadly weapon.
Okay.
And I would argue to the court that perhaps, I mean, if there had been other evidence, but there's really no evidence admitted upon which the court could make such a finding, so I would ask the court not to find that. But I will represent to the court as an officer of the court that it is not absolutely required that it be included.
Okay. I really didn't think so. I just wanted to make sure. I would think I guess, Mr. Young, would you disagree with the information that is provided in the pre-sentence report that everyone has agreed that I review, that I could use that as far as, since I've taken judicial notice of that, the letters and everything else, that would be, would you have an objection for me, of me using that if I were in fact to make a finding of a deadly weapon?
Your Honor, I think the court can consider all evidence before the court, and if there is evidence that the court can point to that says this supports the finding of deadly weapon, obviously we can't contest that.
Okay. First, I really do want to thank everybody for being here. We don't have full courtrooms like this. These, just as both of the attorneys said, these are some of the most difficult cases that any judge has to deal with for many reasons, obviously. Mr. Gomez, had you been in, well, I'm not sure that it would matter, but had you been in here and this was your first DWI, there might be some sense of what your attorney was asking for me, which is true. I mean, I have to detach myself from the emotional part, which is, it's impossible, but it's required, and I do the best I can to do that. And there are things about you and your life in the past that are good. There are things that the 3 prior DWIs should have taught you. Your age, you're 52 now, 53 now. It's the 3 DWIs previously, even though they're older, and your age, it's not the establishment's fault. Did they violate the law? Absolutely. You're a grown man. Got into a vehicle, and from your history, from your age, probably from telling your own children not to drink and drive, and trying to probably instill that in them, and you did it, and you did this. So at this time, in cause number 24, DCCR 1651, I'm going to find you entered your plea of guilty freely and voluntarily, find sufficient evidence to find you guilty, and at this time find you guilty of intoxication manslaughter with a vehicle. I'm going to sentence you to a term of 20 years in the Institutional Division of the Texas Department of Corrections. There will be an affirmative finding of a deadly weapon. I am basing that on all of the information that's presented in both the pre-sentence report, the attached reports from the officers, in addition to the letters from Mr. Stacks, who unfortunately had to drive up and see this in person, from what they had to use to identify these 2 precious young lives, that there's no way that there is any doubt that you used your vehicle in a manner capable of causing death, and that you in fact did that. In cause number 24, DCCR 1652, I'm also going to find sufficient evidence to find you guilty, and at this time find you guilty of intoxication manslaughter with a vehicle. Sentence you to a term of 20 years. There will also be a deadly finding in that case based on the same information and evidence that I used in the previous one. That sentence will run consecutively to cause number 24, DCCR 1651. In cause number 24, DCCR 1653, I'm also going to find that you entered your plea of guilty freely and voluntarily, find sufficient evidence to find you guilty, and at this time find you guilty of driving while intoxicated, third or more. Find those prior offenses true. Sentence you to a term of 10 years in the Institutional Division of the Texas Department of Corrections. That will run concurrently with the other 2 sentences. You will receive credit on these sentences for any time that you've been in custody that the law gives you the right to receive.
Operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated, but this is a 3rd-degree felony because you pleaded true to the second paragraph, which included allegations of 4 prior DWI convictions dating back to 2007. And paragraphs 1 and 2 constitute a 3rd-degree felony, so you were facing up to 10 years in prison. Well, that's not the real problem. The problem is this is your 5th DWI that we know about. 4. No, man, you got 4 prior convictions. In May 31st, 2007, County Court of Law 3 of Jefferson County, you were convicted to operating a motor vehicle while intoxicated. After that, on August 27th, 2008, which would be a little over a year later, in County Court of Law 3, another operating a motor vehicle in a public place while intoxicated. Then a little over 4 years later, on December 3rd, 2012, you picked up 2 cases. You were convicted of 2 cases in cause number 907764 and 12-15124 out of the 252nd District Court next door. Those were 2 separate DWIs.
Yeah, she was
that were handled in the same proceeding. But this is your 5th DWI.
Yeah, the 4th one, Your Honor, was used to revoke her probation on the 3rd. And that's why they revoked the same day.
I know that's still bad.
Yeah, no,
I mean, no,
uh,
but here's the problem with, this is the problem. She's standing there,
yeah.
but is not appearing coherent. I know more about her criminal history than she does. This is your 5th DWI, ma'am. You're saying it's not. We've got to resolve that first. You should know more about your life than I should ever.
Right.
But why are you saying this is your...
I didn't think it was, sir. That's the God's truth.
Well, I think there's some mental problems here.
Or
I think there's some mental problems here. I mean, what's the state say? Or do we have 4 separate prior convictions of DWI?
Yes, Judge, we do.
okay.
You want me to show them to you?
No, believe me.
But I shouldn't have to be trying to convince you. This is your life.
Well,
You should be more intimately familiar with your mistakes than me.
I know how many times I got arrested.
Ma'am?
I know how many times I got arrested. Arrested.
That's not a conviction. Being arrested, that's probable cause that you might have done something wrong, but you're presumed innocent unless you're found guilty. That's what's important for convictions. It's not a good deal to be arrested for whatever reason. That needs to be fixed, but until you're found guilty, or unless you're found guilty, we're not talking about any other arrests. We're talking about convictions here in this.
Okay.
And that's what sentencing is all based upon, criminal history of convictions and the circumstances of this crime. And it's DWIs that's your only criminal history, but you got this last time they gave you a break on your 3rd. You were given a break. You were placed on probation, and then that was revoked with another DWI. And then you were sentenced to 5 years in prison, right?
Correct.
Okay. But you understand the way things happen is when you commit further or subsequent criminal behavior in the same subject matter, the penalties go up. You don't get less punishment for subsequent behavior of the same type. Do you understand?
Right.
All right. I just wish you'd make the right decision when you get into a 4,000-pound missile. It does terrible tissue damage when it hits humans in collisions.
Yes,
we have this every day. We have to deal with tragedies in this room on misuse of motor vehicles. I'm looking at what was presented. I guess, Frank, you presented this from Diagnostic Health.
Yeah, yes, sir. And I gave it, it didn't get in our report, but I brought it to her 2 weeks ago, which is the week ahead when we were supposed to be here the first time. Even going to probation would be difficult, and she doesn't want probation. What she'd like, Your Honor, and I know it's kind of unusual, is 2 years jail time, and she'd pay a $5,000 fine, and you could even add safe fee. She's never gone to drug treatment or anything ever. Or alcohol treatment. She's not an addict, she's an alcoholic.
Well, how do I put her in safe P, substance abuse felony punishment, when she goes to prison?
That is prison.
No, that's a condition of probation. That's the way we do that. It's safe P is not supposed to be
she doesn't,
punishment. It's a medical facility, but that's not a condition under the statute when you get, if they want to send her, if the state of Texas wants to send her to a facility, I guess I can't stop that as part of her confinement, but I can't order it and then place her in prison. But also the problem is, Frank, is it defies logic and the historical significance of the way the criminal system works. You don't get less punishment for the same subsequent misbehavior. What kind of deterrence aspect is that? It's supposed to deter people by more punishment each time you make the same wrong choice.
Well, because of her health issues, Your Honor, she's willing, if you give her 2 years jail and she'd voluntarily pay a $5,000 fine only because of her health concerns or concerns for her. That's the unusual circumstance. I understand that each time you commit a DWI, you don't get less punishment.
Well, that's what y'all are proposing. 2 years in prison is less punishment than we had last time.
But you'll pay a fine of $5,000. Let's pay finally at least make some money.
Here's what's fair is fair. Just because somebody can pay a fine, well, most people in here can't. So you have money, then you can avoid being held responsible. I mean, if I was a poor person, I'd say, I don't have that kind of money. Why do the rich people get treated differently? I thought that we were all treated fairly under the law.
Well,
and that's the way I kind of believe it should be.
I agree with you, Honor, but her health issues are the other factor I need to be factored in, and that's why I brought the medical.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's got, she's on a walker. She's got osteoporosis, which is a pretty serious thing, and then she could just, break a bone walking, not just falling or something.
Okay, but she can still drive a car.
No, not like that. I've been able to drive.
She'd surrender her license if she could,
Okay. Well, we know you were driving one October 19th of 23.
Yeah.
And then after that, you got sick?
I failed.
You weren't ill before that?
No, I failed.
Well, what was... We're down to it begs the question, really. There's a problem when you commit 5 DWIs, man. There's a problem there. And this osteoporosis has just come up after your 5th DWI. How can you explain the misbehavior and the wrong choices?
It was wrong.
How many wrong mistakes do you have to make to do something about it? We even tried to help you with probation, and that was revoked because you got another DWI.
Right.
Wow, probation. Okay. All right.
I think what strikes me the most is that the defendant has minimized her responsibility until today. It was refreshing a little bit to hear her say, take responsibility. I was wrong.
Okay.
She minimized her responsibility throughout the investigation. Cap, 6 years TDC, revocation. 6 years TDC.
Operating motor vehicles in public places, and you were sentenced to, you were placed on probation last time. That was revoked, and you were sentenced to 5 years in prison. The agreement is a cap of 6 years in prison. I hereby find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of this 3rd-degree felony. In paragraphs 1 and 2, I'm following this agreement. You are hereby sentenced to confinement in the institutional division of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice to serve a term of 6 years. And I just wish we all weren't put in this position. I just wish you would fix this mess. But you have to know you are a blink of an eye from fatalities when you're operating a 4,000-pound missile, especially intoxicated. And not only you, but everybody else on the road relies on each other to act responsibly with 4,000-pound missiles zipping around the road. And for whatever reason, you did not learn from these prior convictions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck, man.
With the Loss Prevention Department.
5 years.
And have, through your employment as a loss prevention officer with HEB, have you become familiar with the defendant, Alexis Bourgeois Cooper?
Yes.
Please explain briefly to the court how you have come to be familiar with her.
She originally came on our radar back in February of 24 when she started stealing from our stores in Montgomery County. And then she was pulled over shortly after stealing at a Conroe store. And that's how we were able to ID her.
And you understand that she's already pled guilty today to a state jail felony level theft for $3,547 worth of cosmetics and makeup from a H-E-B store in Port Arthur. You understand that, correct?
That's correct.
And she committed that offense along with co-defendants Katira Green and Monique Wynn. Please briefly tell the court your familiarization with Katira Green and Monique Wynn.
Both of those parties are part of an organized retail crime and a spree group that we've been following about at the same time. And they have in Houston area, Katarina Green or stealing from our stores about $56,000 worth of cosmetics, and then Monique.
Your Honor, I just object to any co-defendants' restitution amounts or what they've pled guilty to or found guilty of.
That's overruled. Go ahead.
And then Monique Wynn was about $42,000. And they're part of a ring that was hitting our area for a short period of time.
During the period of February the 24th through April the 24th, how many actual thefts did your investigation link to the defendant, Ms. Cooper?
10 events.
For a total loss of how much?
$8,956.50.
Now, for the entire ring, what approximate dollar amount would you put on? Well, let's break it down. What about for Wynn, defendant Wynn? How much would you attribute to her?
About $42,800.
And for the defendant Green, how much would you attribute to her?
$56,000.
Is it fair to say, in your opinion, that this group has been operating as an organized retail theft ring?
Yes.
And have you, in your 5 years of experience in loss prevention, have you, how would you rank this endeavor?
This is about the second highest ring we've had in HEB.
And you prepared a report?
Yes.
Okay, and you reviewed that report prior to testifying here today?
Yes.
All right, I'll pass the research.
Thank
No
you.
questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, ma'am. You can have a seat.
Judge, just if I may, I don't know what I was thinking today that I agreed to a cap of 12 months. I certainly see how the court would be inclined to give this defendant more than 12 months, Judge. Well, actually, I do know what I was thinking. If you look at her criminal history, she actually has not been to prison before. She's got a number of misdemeanor thefts, at least theft arrests.
Not enough felonies that have actually been convicted and followed through that would get enhanced either. So, I mean, I could see my initial thought was the same. I wasn't quite sure where this came from. But I can see that it's not really enhanceable at this point based on any other felonies. So, Mr. Lane?
Well, Your Honor, obviously, we're asking the court to follow the agreement that was entered. The court does have the ability to sentence her to 12 months in the state jail. She did have a 1244 in Harris County that she did 10 months in the county jail. She does have a pending case out of Hidalgo County. What had happened back in 2019 and 2021 is her father and her grandmother died. And then she did get involved with these thefts. That was a major setback for her. She does have custody of 3 children. She is a phlebotomist and has some other skills that she can earn money with. So we're asking that you follow it. She has a family law hearing that's the 24th of this month. We would ask you to sentence her to 10 months in the state jail.
Mr.
We'd ask for the entire 12 months, Judge. Excuse me. I think she's benefiting from Mr. Lane.
Is that who is it? What is she?
She's benefiting from Mr. Lane's negotiation with me in working me down to a cap of 12. I'd ask for the entire 12, Judge.
Ms. Bourgeois Cooper, one of the things that stood out to me in your pre-sentence report, well, a couple of things. One, your criminal history is ridiculous. It's when I start having to turn page after page after page, that's a problem. And your version of this about I didn't really know what was going on, and I just went with somebody at the store, and I didn't know what county I was in. You didn't know what county you were in because y'all were going from county to county to county, and still you're not going to help yourself by saying anything right now, okay? Because Ms. Shear was just here and has you on video at other stores doing the same thing. So I don't dispute what she said under oath at all. I think Mr. Lane did an amazing job for you, and you are very lucky because he got you the cap of 12 months, because you deserve a lot more, in my opinion. At this time, I'm going to find that you entered your plea of guilty freely and voluntarily. And in cause number 24 DCCR 1296, find sufficient evidence to find you guilty, and at this time find you guilty of the state jail felony offense of theft of property. Sentence you to a term of 12 months in the state jail prison. You will receive credit on that sentence for any time that you've been in custody that the law gives you the right to receive. I'm going to hand you the trial court certification that shows this was an agreement that I followed, and so you waived your right to appeal. I have also handed you a written admonishment regarding your ineligibility to possess a firearm or ammunition. Because of the judgment entered against you, you're ineligible under Texas law to possess a firearm or ammunition. Possession of a firearm or ammunition could lead to charges against you. If you have questions about the laws that make you ineligible to possess a firearm or ammunition, or about how long that lasts, you can talk with Mr. Lane. And all I can tell you, Ms. Bourgeois Cooper, is that I hope you learn your lesson while you're in state jail, and stop all of the stealing, because each time you do it, this is only going to get worse. It's going to get enhanced. You're going to get more time. At this point, you now have, I think, 2 felony convictions, and that's going to start adding up, and you're going to end up with a lot more time and going to TDC instead of state jail. Do you understand? All right, and go back to the bailiff. Ma'am.
I love you, lady. Now.
Sir, let me just remind you, you pled to count 1 homicide manslaughter with the habitual third. It is punishable by up to 30 years, and count 2 weapons felony firearms is 2 years preceding.
Yes.
What would you like us to know?
I would like to begin by expressing how truly sorry I am for what happened last February. I know that looking at my criminal history is easy to make an assumption that of who I am. And Your Honor, I'm disappointed in myself. I'm back in a position I promised myself and my mother that I would never be in again. My last criminal offense was over 10 years ago. I changed everything about who I am and who I was. I earned my GED, I earned a CDL, and was going through therapy, self-admitted. For once, everything in my life was going great. Then in February of last year, I went out with the intentions to just unwind, but I never envisioned that I would be attacked. I'm so far removed from that life that the thought of being sucker punched and then being jumped just wasn't even in the realm of reality for me. I regret that a life was lost, and for that I am sorry. I'm not proud of this. This is something I have to live with, something I've been living with, something I am one day going to have to answer to God for. Regardless of how this incident unfolded, who was drunk, and who was the aggressor, I am sorry for the role I played in it. And I pray that the family can one day find it in their hearts to forgive me. And I ask that the court takes everything from this case into consideration. I'm asking for leniency, mercy. Thank you.
I have no leniency and no mercy to give you, because what I see is an escalation. What I see is someone who has said, I've done all of these great things, and so I want you to give me credit for violating the law, carrying a gun into a bar and firing twice into a human who dies. Could have fired into the ceiling. That would have scared everybody. That would have been a cry for help, if that's what you needed. But taking a gun to a fist fight doesn't work. You were a felon, you knew you couldn't have a weapon. You chose to drink. You had control of your life, how much you drank, and whether or not you took an unlawful gun with you. So all of these great things that you did and that everybody's so proud of gets erased by carrying a weapon concealed unlawfully on your person in a bar where you drink. So your decision-making is clouded by the alcohol. But it was already clouded having no alcohol when you put that unlawful weapon into your waistband without the proper license or authority, and then you use it on a human being, a valuable human being. Now, maybe you didn't give a crap about him, but the community does, and his family certainly does. They will be forever without him. He will not share birthdays, holidays, graduations. There are no more hugs. There are no more celebrations with him. His family has to keep him alive by the memories he left behind, by the footprint he left behind. Your sorry doesn't cut it for me. You do not just have one or two crimes. You have, what, 7 felonies? And what, another 7, 6 or 7, let's see, 6 felonies prior, now it's 7, and 5 prior misdemeanor. What haven't you learned those other 13 times you were before a judge? If anybody speaks out anymore, the officer will take you into custody. It is contempt. 93 days jail and or $7,500 is contempt. I don't care about the money, but you'll have 93 days in our hotel in Mason. So I expect a quiet courtroom. I don't know where your counseling went wrong. I don't know where all these good deeds went wrong, but they didn't go far enough. You need some significant time behind bars so that when you are out, the rest of us can be assured that maybe you learned your lesson and you can keep us all safe. There's a man who will not be able to have conversations with his family. You'll be behind bars, but you can still see your family and they can send you pictures and they can come visit you. Unlike the man who was loved that you took down. As to count 1, homicide, manslaughter, you are sentenced to 171 months to 360 months. 0 credit days. You will pay private assessment, the amount of $130 and a $68 state cost. As to count 2, weapons, felony, firearms, you will serve 24 months with credit for 402 days that you've already served. That time will be served consecutive with and preceding count 1, which technically is count 6. And count 7. I think we need to change that on the cover page. I want the restitution paid first. While you are incarcerated, you will participate in cognitive behavioral trade school. Anything else you would like him to participate in?
No, Your Honor.
All right, I'm sure the Department of Corrections will have other programming for you, sir. I believe that this punishment, given the circumstances, the escalation, and the thoughtlessness that went into bringing a gun, an illegal gun, into a bar, being drunk, and firing it against a punch or 2 or 3. I believe this punishment is sufficient and proportional. It speaks to the necessary continued rehabilitation of defendant, Hopefully it deters others and protects society. There are far too many illegal weapons and people who decide they want to be all powerful and excuse their actions away by carrying a gun.